suck it.
Good evening, everybody. This is Jamie, your host of Warrior Spotlight, where the stories are real, the emotions are raw, and the hearts are always courageous. Tonight, we have in-house my co-host, my husband, Billy Paxton. And tonight, we have Billy Jeffers. And we are going to get into what Billy does, why Billy is here, all in just a few minutes. We have to do announcements first, Billy, just so you know.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, first off, we want to thank Mary Beth. She is our sponsor. She is with the Center for Healing Connections. Again, she is our primary sponsor for the show, and she is our mental health in our organization. And we cannot do what we do without you, Mary Beth, and we greatly appreciate it. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors of our upcoming event on the 28th, Aggregate Industries, the Delventhal Company, Laurel's Princesses, Torn Vale Media, Vibrant Life Senior Living, Absolute Memories Photography, Levin's Law, Gather Creations, Duke Petting Farm, JDRM Engineering, Simply Sounds, SSOE, Abe at the Sunoco and Temperance, Emmanuel Baptist Church, Knapp and Associates, and just as of today, we have Just Be You Education Support Awareness. So we are very, very grateful for the sponsorships that we have, and exciting news that we added to our venue. So if you do not know him, check out the video. I will post it again. It is Dave Bray,
USA.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was just going to talk about his name first.
Okay.
But
Well, no, that's...
So,
Go ahead.
my husband has been following Dave for quite some time. He is a Christian artist, very supportive of country music, or not country music, veterans and first responders. And my husband connected with them, and we officially announced it the other night that he will be coming. So his national anthem is known everywhere. It is absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
McConnell says he loves you, Billy.
Yeah, he sings at the RNC. He's sung for the president, NASCAR events, the national anthem.
Yep.
And he's got a video that's for veterans homelessness.
Yep.
Which is getting a lot of traction lately, I noticed.
Yeah.
Not only since he put that video out, but since we had the couple weeks back the guest. And then I did see something on mainstream news about 40, just the numbers and statistics.
Yeah.
And Rocket Bank and all these banks are getting, supplying funding for it now.
Right.
Along with the, what is it? Homes for Heroes, or there's a couple of them.
Right.
Which are
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
But
I'm
anyway.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're super
Yeah.
excited to have him. And his national anthem, oh my gosh, is just absolutely amazing. And we're going to be posting it multiple times. He's got 150,000 plus followers. He performs, like Billy said.
Yeah.
He's performed with some,
He's
Hank
a
Williams
Navy.
Jr.
He's a veteran. He's in the Navy. Was in the Navy.
Okay, that
Yeah.
piece I did not know.
Oh, you're right. I thought well, you should have read his bio. But yeah.
No, I did not.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I don't want to say he's a SEAL, but he was
Yeah.
definitely a Navy. In
Awesome.
the Navy, yeah. His stuff he does with veterans is amazing. He does, it's crazy. It
Well,
really
we're super
is.
excited
Yeah,
because I
yes.
talked to his wife today. They were going to put out a promotional video.
Yeah, yeah.
So they
Dave-
make a little promotional video
Yeah,
for the
Dave's
event
the
that
real
they're
deal. He really is.
that they're coming to. So we're super excited. She'll have that done, and it'll go out tomorrow, and it goes out to everybody.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and then they put out that they're going to be in Michigan, Ohio line, so his fans can come potentially to our venue to see him. So we're super, super stoked about that. Awesome. Very excited. Okay, lots going on. We were at the Rib Off for 3 days. Crazy busy. It was amazing. We just got in our new apparel. I'll bring that over toward the tail end of the show. It's definitely not going to last through the Monroe County Fair. And then on the tail end of the fair going into this weekend, we are at something called a Vet Fest, which is up north. And then we are at the Jeep Fest for 3 days.
Yeah.
So we have a very busy week and a half. Angela. Oh, hello, Angela.
Hi, Angela.
She's from our B&I group.
Right on.
Yeah.
Pineapples and parties, everybody.
Yes, pineapples and parties. Yes, she's an event planner. Love her. Okay, so we're going to get into you, Billy.
Okay.
This Billy over here. So I wanted to tell you, you are our first guest that we've had on our show who is not a veteran
Wow.
and who is not directly a veteran resource, meaning like directly linked to it. So you are our first civilian guest and support entity. Yes. That's how much I like you.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you
So,
for having me.
yeah. So our the things that we do as an organization is we vet the community to bring in the civilian community. We talk about building the outside community and bringing it in, right? And so we as veterans now live in this the civilian community. So we don't have necessarily military bases that we go to or anything like that. So we have to integrate into the civilian side. So it's really important that we as an organization vet who would make our veterans feel comfortable or our veterans' families feel comfortable about what they have to do, right? So by having you on the show, you will become a familiar face. You will become a trusted source, right? And so that is, pretty powerful for our veterans, right? So when we bring in entities like yours, and I love that you're here and that you're supporting us.
Thank you for having me. That means a whole lot more than I can even express. And I think I've told you this before. Whatever I can do to help, that's my theme.
Yeah.
Whatever I can do to help. So if there's something we need to do for a veteran, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's it.
So Billy and I met. We both are in a BNI group, and I was going to do the snake.
I was wondering. Make sure we tell them that.
Yeah, Matt Baker's watching.
Yes.
Hey, Daniel, he's watching too. Hey, you guys.
Cobra.
Yeah, Cobra. Go Cobras. That's what they do at the BNI group.
Oh, okay.
But Billy and I met there. We joined probably about the same time.
I think so.
Yep, and it is an amazing group by itself. But Billy and I, probably a couple weeks ago, had an opportunity to just sit and meet and talk at lunch and get to know one another. And I would like you, because this helps build the momentum for our veterans for you, to just kind of talk a little bit about you, share with them, and then talk about how you became an attorney. Right?
Okay.
Okay? The floor is yours, my
Oh
friend.
boy. All right. Well, again, thank you for having me. It's good to see everybody out there. Even though we can't see you, we can see your posts. So, a little bit about me.
Well, excuse me one second. So we have a veteran on there. He's about to get married. It says Danielle and I can badly need to get all of the important paperwork done.
Okay.
So we'll get you connected, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did
getting
tell
married.
you, where are they getting married? Ohio or Michigan?
Well, they're actually getting married at our farm in Michigan.
Oh, okay. 'Cause
Yeah.
I told you I have a license to perform weddings, right? I'm a minister too.
Oh,
Did I not tell you that? Okay, yeah, I am. So only in Ohio right now,
Okay.
and Oklahoma. I can't forget.
Oklahoma.
Yes, yes.
I was in Oklahoma.
I was for a while.
Really?
I was. Yes.
Steers and beers, right?
Well, that's one way to put it.
Yeah. No, I
In
like
Texas,
Oklahoma.
we say other things.
I know. I got you.
So if anybody's watching from
North
Texas,
of Texas. We're
sorry.
north of Texas.
Yes.
Okay, so
So-
let's hear about you.
I grew up originally from Toledo, Ohio. Grew up in the Shoreland area. The son of 2 generations of auto mechanics. So my grandfather, my papa, he had a auto shop at Alexis and Douglas. It was that was one of the many places he was at. My father began working for him. I want to say it was 1973-ish, maybe 72. Met my mother. Everybody said there's no way you'll ask the boss's daughter out, and he did, and then they were married. And then Dad eventually went into business for himself and had the marathon at I-75 and Route 20. He was Ray's, for anybody that's local. If you saw the tow trucks that say Ray's, he was at one point had 25 different flatbeds and tow trucks on the road, towing for AAA and everybody else. But so I grew up in that, had a chance to take over the business. He looked at me and said, "Billy, you're welcome to take over the business, but I worked hard so that you don't have to if you don't want to." And so I thought about it, and I could tell he was kind of pushing me to do something different. Like, he'd worked hard so I didn't have to do that. And so I thought, I'm going to do that. So I went to Oklahoma Christian University. That's how I got the Oklahoma connection. I think I told you this when I was picking schools. My parents, my dad said, "Son, if you go to a Christian school, we'll give you lots of support. If you go to a state school, we'll give you lots of prayer." That was an easy decision.
Sure.
And so went to Oklahoma Christian, got an accounting degree, moved back here, and worked here for Fifth Third Bank for 3 years. Then I worked for Cincinnati Insurance for about 3.5 years. And I had a friend reach out to me when I was going out west for a visit and to take my youngest sister to school out in Oklahoma. And they said, "Hey, we got this company that's hiring. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Sure, better salary. I'll check it out." Well, it was an oil and gas company, Chesapeake Energy. And I interviewed, and 3 weeks later I was out there. And I spent 8 years working in the oil and gas industry. It was a great industry. I met a lot of beautiful people. It was wonderful. But the oil and gas industry has ups and downs. And I'm not a big corporate guy to begin with. I don't like playing that kind of game. That's just not me. After my third layoff, I had a layoff in October of 2013 when Chesapeake resized and reorganized. I began to work for another company, was let go in October of 2015. And then oil prices were really low at the time. And I got hired again at another company in December of 2015. And then in February of 2016 was laid off for the third time. The third time I said, "That's it. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of people like OPEC and Wall Street and anybody that doesn't have anything to do with my work product controlling my future." And being an attorney is something I'd always wanted to do. I had always wanted to argue for people, work on behalf of people, but I was always in school, or else I was working. When I was working, I always had great jobs, and my mentors had said, "Billy, it doesn't make any sense for you to go to law school right now unless you can do it in the evening." Toledo, when I first looked, didn't have a program in the evening, so I just kept working. And everything I had touched had a legal aspect to it, so I was doing everything that I thought an attorney could do except sign on the bottom line. Well, after that third time, I thought, you know what, this is it. I'm going to law school. I don't have a job. There weren't any jobs in Oklahoma City for oil and gas. I had an option to go to Houston, actually to move to New Mexico, and I really wasn't interested in moving to New Mexico. And so I thought, I'm going to law school. So I looked into staying out west, and I looked into coming back to Toledo. And my family's all back here. I do have one sister that's out in Oklahoma City. I've got 2 nephews out there, but the rest of my family's all back here. And I was looking, and my dad said, "Hey, if you come home, you can just live with your mom and I, unless you're totally opposed to that, and you don't have to worry about room and board." Well, that's pretty tempting. Mm-hmm. And so I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, I can do that. Even though I'd been living on my own for a while, I thought I can do that. So they said, "You can pick whatever room in the house you want, move in, do your law school thing, and we'll go from there." So moved back home, worked for Dad for a few months while I waited for law school to start, and then entered law school. And I knew I didn't want to find anything corporate. I knew that wasn't no big law. That's just not my style, because, like I said, I don't like to play that corporate game. And my faith is very important in my life. That's the thing that leads me: faith, family, and friends. And I prayed and I prayed. I said, I got to find a firm that's a smaller firm that's I'm going to be able to learn from. I'm going to be able to be taught. And sure enough, about halfway through my second year of law school, a friend of mine had been working at Godfrey, Wetzel & Horkey and said he was leaving. He wanted to take the Ohio bar. And he said, "I think you might like these guys." So I said, okay, submitted my resume, and they hired me. I started working there, and I loved it. I mean, these guys are just great attorneys and great teachers and mentors. And so I started working there, expressed my desire to stay there after I graduated, told them I was interested, and they waited till 2 days before the Michigan bar exam application was due. And then they said they wanted to hire me. And so I hurried up in 2 days and got that submitted, and then passed the Michigan bar, and then later on took the Ohio bar, and I passed that, and the rest they say is history. And right now it's good, and trying to build my own part of the practice. In the firm, I handle just about anything that comes in the door. The only thing our firm doesn't do is bankruptcy, workers' comp, and medical malpractice. Anything else that comes in the door, we can help people with, which I love because I'm getting different things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like doing the just routine same thing over and over. I like people coming in and even every case, even if you're doing a family law case or a criminal case, every case is different because you have different people, different personalities, different attitudes and opinions. So I love it, and it's just constantly just go, and that's something that excites me. So
Cool.
That's me.
Right.
I think that's maybe a shorter version.
Yeah. Yes. That's amazing. And
Yes.
thank you for sharing so much with our viewers, because, again, it's important that our viewers and our veterans and their families get a little behind the scenes, right? Because at what opportunity do they ever get a chance to do something like that, right?
Right.
So they might have a referral like, hey, here's an attorney. Or with us, every Thursday or something is you can go to the VA, right, to get wills and powers of attorney. Just change name, sign name on bottom, right?
That's pretty much all it is.
Right. And so I was explaining to somebody today, that what you do is different and that you help guide them through this process. I mean, I don't know all the particulars, but it's more detailed than just sign your name and change out Tom's for Timmy.
It is, and I wouldn't fault anybody for that. It's just that, for example, I have a good friend whose brother just went off to basic training a few months back, and he completed that about 3 weeks ago in North Carolina. But she asked me, she said, hey, I can't do this for him. He's my brother, and I want to keep it. Plus, I'm his executor, so I need to keep that separate. So we did a will for him. And the difference is that we can put his actual wishes in the will. When you do these in the military, before you go off to active duty or combat, they give you a form. And that's great. I appreciate that they do that so that there's less probate, but it's not personal. And I think that's the difference, is what do you want? Where do you want these things to go? I have a client right now who's got a collection of Army patches and a stamp collection. And he's given me very specific instructions on what to do with that. That doesn't happen when you use a base form or when you use LegalZoom.com or
Right.
something like
Sure.
that.
And I was just going to say that so many people, which I'm sure you've heard a million times, right? I don't really have anything to put in a will,
Oh, yes.
right?
Yes.
And so...
I got a lot of stuff, but nothing to put in there, which is
Right.
so
Right.
funny because it's not right.
So what is your response when somebody says that to you? Oh, I don't really have anything to put in a will.
First thing I'll say is, okay, well, do you have a car? Who gets the car? What are you going to do with the car? Because, for example, in the state of Ohio, if you have automobiles, state of Ohio will let your executor go to the License Bureau or BMV and change the title over so long as the total amount of your vehicles is $65,000 or less. If it's over $65,000, you're in probate. Well, that's great. You get that changed over, but what if the person who's doing that isn't trustworthy? So you need to have someone that you trust taking care so that that car that you sell, let's just say that you're single, you don't have any children, but you have a niece or nephew, and you want that niece or nephew to get the funds from that car sale so that they can start a college fund. Well, with the right executor that you trust, they can sell that car, they can get those funds into a bank account so they start earning interest, and that niece or nephew gets that money. But if you don't have the right person handling that, or if you have an estranged family, there's so many what ifs in these situations. Your money may not get where you want it to go, or your personal items. Let's say you've got a grandma's brooch or diamond engagement ring that grandpa got her. Well, who gets that? So when people say, I got a lot of stuff, but I don't really care what happens to it, I will also try to get them talking. Okay, well, tell me what stuff do you have? Do you have a jewelry collection? Well, actually, I do. Okay, well, who do you want to get your rings? Who do you want to get your earrings, your watches? Do you have a pocket knife collection? My grandfather and my father both collected pocket knives. So when they passed, I got a couple of my papa's pocket knives. My uncle got a couple. My cousins got a couple. When Dad passed, I spread them with my brother-in-laws because I knew that's what he wanted and it was instructed. So those are things that unless you tell people about, they're not going to know. And quite often, there's situations where somebody will look at an item and say, this doesn't mean anything to me. And they'll junk it. Well, that might not mean anything to, for example, a mother. But to a son, that might mean something. Mm-hmm. Or if you change the roles, let's say that there's some jewelry and the daughters like the jewelry. I guess sons can like jewelry too, but more often than not, it's the daughters. Well, if you're a man getting rid of that jewelry and you may not even think anything of it, or know the difference in carats and gold and all that stuff, you need to be able to say, I want this to go here, this to go here. So it's important to really sit down and think about that stuff.
One of the things that I put in
Well,
mind...
your voice then is heard.
Right.
Like you're saying.
Exactly.
And it's funny because, I'm thinking about what we've went through with both our parents passing, right? And then all that planning. I mean, people don't realize that we can plan our music that's played and all that, and then nobody has a say but us because we've told you that, yes, I want the Eagles to be played. I want this. This is the food. I mean, right down to the food. And the kids don't have to argue over what they want because that's what happens a lot. It's, well, I want chicken. I want, all them stupid little particulars. A lot of that's taken care of because we've made them wishes with you so that there's no arguing. If not that there's always arguments, but it's cut and dry. This is what they want at their funeral or this is where it goes, the music, all that. It can be pre-planning. I've seen that. It's just crazy how far that pre-planning can go. It can go right down to the music and food. Because I've seen that, and there are people that do that, and you can, put that in writing so it's taken care of, which is awesome. Really, it really is.
Well, and you even said it's not always arguing. The thing about losing a family member is grief is such a weird thing, and we don't understand it. No. It affects everybody differently.
Sure. Then you throw greed in there, and that even changes it. It puts a whole nother level.
The 2 G's.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's horrible.
And if you plan out and you lay everything out, you can eliminate. I won't say completely, but you can take out as much as possible.
Yes.
Of the grief and the greed because your emotions are going to be all over the place.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And the greed. I hate to say it. I've seen it in every industry I've worked in. When people see green, they change.
Absolutely.
Right.
It is crazy.
And you get people who will say, my kids would never do something like that.
Yeah, right.
Well, you're not there to correct them anymore.
No,
Right.
That's the truth. It's funny because we can... personal experiences, or and then with television, these shows that one show that we've seen where they made the one grandson do all them things, work in the ranch because he was part of a trust, and James Gardner played the rich grandpa who passed, and he had a video because he wanted him to learn things, and he didn't get it. He could have just given him the money, but all that stuff again back to the will. It doesn't matter. You got to complete school before you get this.
Right.
You have to do this before you can have that, or just stuff that's your wishes. That's what needs to be taken care of. Absolutely.
And my thought process of having you on, it was, I know that a lot of the veterans, had that will and the power of attorney when they were in, right? And when you get out, I honestly don't believe it's one of those things that they think about transitioning into, right?
Right.
And so, because it's a one and done, right? And probably more than half of them wouldn't even know where it was at if they wanted to look for it at this moment in time anyways, right?
Probably not.
And so I think it is a good conversation to have, to bring up. It is a fact. We are all going to die. It is factual. So if we can make it easier on loved ones. Like my sister. And honestly, I can tell you, if we hadn't met, I would not have said this to my sister. My sister's getting ready to undergo major surgery.
Okay.
Right? And I said, and she lives in Arizona.
Okay.
I said, do you have a will and a power of attorney? And she's like, no. I said, do you have oh, what's it called when
Living will.
a living will? Yep. She's like, no. And so I put all those things, because she's going to go in at the tail end of this month. And I was like, well, you have to make something happen. And then I said, because I know for my mom, like, I go, who do you have on your bank accounts as a secondary or as a signer? And she doesn't have anybody because she's not married. Her son lives here by herself. So those are all variables to think about. And I think it is an amazing thing to be able to think about. And the veterans that we serve and the population that we serve have so much going on anyways, right? And so if we can present someone like yourself a friendly face, and so they don't have to go stand in line at the
it's an
VA,
endorsement
they can make
too,
an appointment, right?
Right.
You're
And
endorsing it,
they're
yeah.
like, okay, we've seen you on the show, you're a trusted source, yeah, we would love to sit down and discuss how we need to make this happen, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that hi Georgia, hi Melissa, thank you guys for watching. I think this is one of the biggest avenues that we have with what we do, right? And go
Yep.
ahead.
No, it is. It's the truth because it's funny that one of them things. And I know we're talking about wills, which is part of your forte,
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Not DUIs, which is you still do them, right?
I do those too.
Yeah. So, but either one of them we don't want to talk about.
Right.
Because again, it's not going to happen to us.
Right.
I'm not going to get a DUI, or I'm not going to die, or when I do, we'll get to that. And it reminds me of and I'll make it a quick little story, but in the demolition we've always run across a can of something. Oil, paint, thinners, what have you. And over the years with my dad, it was like, put it on the trailer out back. We had a big semi-trailer. Well, we put them in the trailer out back over the course of 30 years. Well, when hadn't passed yet, but the property was fortunate enough to sell. So that time it came to go out in that trailer and go through that shit and get rid of it, whatever it was. Some of it
Yeah.
was old, thinner, and by then they've leaked. And it was funny because I still and I'm telling that story now because that time had came over 30 years to go through that mess. And but it was something that you just put out of sight, out of mind, And this stuff is talking. The DUI, if you're drinking and you own a car, you're going to drink and drive. Are you going to get a DUI? That's up to you and the situation and the man above. But I'm here to tell you can get one because I never thought I'd get one,
Yeah.
and I had more than one. But the point is, that's one of them things like insurance. When you need one, you need to have an attorney. You're going to need one. When you need one, it's nice to have one.
So I would like you to tell people, because not everybody knows what it is, right? So
Sure.
Let's start with a trust. Tell people what a trust is
Oh, goodness.
in the basic, most layman terms that you could do in simplest.
Well, so if it's okay, can I start with the will first?
You can do whatever
Can I
you
do
want.
that?
This is your show.
Because, and it's ironic, the other day we actually ran into a case where a person had a trust but not a will. And I think the will is the vehicle to get to the trust. So a will is your declaration or statement that says, when I pass, this is what I want. I want to be cremated or buried, or I want this music at my funeral. I want my goods to go here. This person can speak on my behalf to banks, to mortgage companies, to the license bureau, to my stock accounts, etc. This person can handle my accounts to get my estate closed. The will is the vehicle that typically transfers items into a trust. Now, can you have trust without a will? Yeah, but it's a better idea to have both because you can set your will up so that it transfers everything into your trust. Trusts are important and necessary because years ago, they used to just completely reduce taxes and eliminate taxes. A few years back, we had a president who decided he wanted to change that, so he changed the tax code a little bit and said, you're not going to eliminate taxes from a trust, but you will still reduce them. So trusts are a vehicle to reduce your taxes when you pass away. Trusts are also an opportunity for you to place items, say for example, real estate, into this trust. And so if you pass and you haven't protected your real estate, and we can talk about that in a second, the trust can manage your real estate for you so that it doesn't have to go into probate. So for example, if you have a trust in Michigan and you have property in Michigan, but you also have property in Ohio, that trust can manage both pieces of property without you having to open up a probate estate in both states for that property. The trust is a good financial vehicle because you can have, for example, I have a client who's got all of his life insurance proceeds, all of his retirement accounts, everything aimed at the trust so that when he passes, the trust is funded, and he's done that intentionally to create a legacy estate for his family so that his son can continue on. Some people put everything into the trust and then it's distributed from the trust to their children, their grandchildren, etc. A trust is a vehicle that's going to manage that money. Say if you have children who are under, I typically say 25. You don't want an 18-year-old to get $250,000 because I know what I would have done with $250,000 at 18. Most people would say that same thing. So the trust can manage that money until a child or person hits a certain age, and so it gives them that vehicle as well. The trust also protects and adds some levels of liability. So I often recommend trusts to people who have large retirements. They want to have specific plans for how their estate is distributed. To business owners, because you want to, as a business owner, you want to have as many layers of protection as possible. I can't speak on that point enough. If you've got an LLC or an S corp, that's going to provide you with that layer of protection, but a trust just adds more, so that if your estate is attacked, let's say your business has an accident, they sue you, they sue the business, they're able to pierce the corporate veil. Your stuff's in the trust, that makes it even harder because now they've got to sue the trust too, and it adds that level of protection. So the trust is just a layer of protection that will help you distribute even more than a will. Because right now you're probably thinking, okay, well, what's the difference between a will and a trust? Well, a will is going to be out there for people who might say, I don't have a lot of stuff, but I do have some. I might have a house, I might have a car, and I might have a retirement account. That's a great person for a will. Can they go in a trust? Sure, we can do that. But the trust is going to be more the business owners, the people with lots and lots of excess cash or property or goods, things like that. Mm-hmm. So there's a difference. I hope I answered that.
You did. It's funny because when you talk, like, I just had more questions going on.
Right.
In my mind.
That's why he answered one right in there because I knew that would. No, and it's the truth. It
yeah.
really is.
So, like, I was thinking. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, the protection, the layers of protection, and then there's different types of trusts and different things, and that's you can't overprotect yourself.
Right.
It's like having too much tools.
Right.
Too much
Can't
chocolate.
have enough
So
tools.
we
Too
have
much chocolate.
Right.
We have a question for you. Does financial power of attorney continue after death, or does it revert to the executor of the will?
So that's a great question, Georgia. So a power of attorney, whether it's financial or healthcare, the second that a person is deceased, the power of attorney becomes null and void. So powers of attorney are good while a person's alive. Then at that point, the will is where everything takes over, either the will or the trust. It's important to note, though, and I've had clients who come in and ask this question, in Michigan and in Ohio, you're typically going to have to be appointed as the executor in Ohio or the personal representative in Michigan of the estate. Otherwise, people won't deal with you. And I've had clients who will come in and say, I took the will to the bank that says I'm the executor. The bank wouldn't talk to me. That's because the banks have specific instructions and statutes that say, don't talk to this person until you have court-ordered forms that say you are the personal representative. That's why it's important, and you mentioned this a minute ago, for example, on banks to either have a payable on death beneficiary or a joint account holder, someone who can step in so you can avoid that probate process. Because I can tell you from experience, the last thing you want to do is go through probate. It's great for my pockets, but you don't need that stress when you're grieving somebody. So if we can keep you out of probate, that's an ideal thing.
Right. Awesome. So my question, that's probably a benefits question. So like, sort of like Georgia's, I was thinking after, because we get asked this a lot with spouses and the benefits that they get or their rights once a veteran passes. So this all plays into that will and trust as well, right? Have all that stuff in order,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
then depending on what the benefits are, where they come from, will dictate whether they're applicable or not.
Right. Right. So, for example, on your benefits for your retirement accounts, you want to make sure your beneficiaries are listed. The last thing you want is that check to go to the estate of Jamie Paxton, because then that means that Billy has to open up a probate estate in order to cash that.
Okay.
Unless he's been appointed as the executor.
Okay, so let me ask you. This is good to
Payable
know.
upon death.
So, like,
Right.
I don't get my retirement until another 12 years, right?
So what happens if you die?
What if I
before
die
then?
now?
Do you have beneficiaries set up already? You should.
With the retirement process? No.
You don't.
No.
That's a good question. I would have to look into. I don't know that off the top of my head. Then
Because
Because
no
they should
part of
have
the
had you
retirement
benefit.
process,
Even starts till you're 60.
yeah.
But don't you have a claim to that either way?
That's what I'm asking you.
And I'm thinking
How do
out
I
loud.
do that? You know?
That's a question I'll have to look
Because
into.
we
and
definitely
get
would
an
want him
answer
to
for.
get my
Yeah.
retirement if something
Yeah, that's the
happened.
fucking only reason I'm hanging around, man. Jeez.
It's not for the ribs. All right, so I'm going to look into that and I'll get you an answer. As a veteran, if I die before my retirement account kicks in, what happens?
If not, you need to borrow against it. Right? Yes, I don't
well,
know.
you have
No.
that. You have that ability, don't you? You can borrow against it right now, can't you?
I don't know anything about my retirement.
Other than you can't
That
get
I
it
can't
till
get to it till I'm 60.
And that's
I get
the case for almost all these veterans, which is pretty horrible.
So
if you think
because I
about it.
was guard, I don't get it till then, right?
Yeah.
I've earned it, and it'll be there, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
get medical and all of that. But right now, I am strictly living off of VA disability.
Right, right. I've got to look into that because I don't know the answer to that.
Mm.
You got me.
These are the type of questions that
Yeah.
we get.
That's a good question.
It is well,
So-
and they're all that. Most of them are in that situation or in that boat, like you said, which is kind of
All right, I'm making a note. So when I put this together, how can I give you a good answer? Is it
And
best
it is
for me
funny, not funny, but it is like because most of them are of a younger age.
Sure.
You know, and I get it. You work at Chrysler, you started at 18, and they work their 30 years or whatever it is, and or 35, right? And start their retirement, their pension that they paid into, but in most private sectors or whatever. But with the military, they're young too. They're 18,
Right.
20 years old and 24, 22, so they get in and at 30, they're how old? After 25, they're still 48 years old. They're not 60, which is where that baseline's put, which made me, some of them, how many tours have they done?
Right.
Been in harm's way, what have you, and can't claim anything until, if they've made the military their career as a profession.
That's a great
So
question.
this Daniel said, so Daniel is a veteran. And so he had put on there that he knows a really good veteran lawyer on the East Coast if you need help finding the answers.
Thank you,
And,
Daniel.
and then put his name in there.
I will look into this and get you an answer.
Cholsom, and
Kilpatrick.
Kilpatrick.
No, I think that's a great question, and I'm surprised that I haven't been asked that question yet because something's got to happen to it. Certainly, I mean, I'm going to say this. I hope this isn't the case that the government just says, oh, thanks, we'll take it back.
Well, I think that's a lot of that. It's almost, I hate to put it in there, but it's like some of them rebate checks and stuff that they make so much on people that don't file that rebate check.
Right.
Then the ones that do file that Menards rebate checks do get the benefits of it.
Right.
Or bought a television and they get the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm putting it into that mentality because the big company they're betting that people that don't fill them out, or
Yeah.
die before they get it.
So Georgia's got another question. She says, I love the questions you guys tonight. Thank you so much. Where is it at? Is it a good idea to have a survivorship on a home deed?
Depends on where you live.
What is a survivorship?
So what she's talking about, actually, it doesn't depend on where you live. It's good in both states. Is she from Ohio or Michigan? Or do we know?
She's Ohio.
She's Ohio.
You're
Okay.
Ohio, right, Georgia? She'll tell us in a second.
I'm thinking of the
So-
Jeopardy music's playing right now.
So I'll start answering that because
No.
in either state, it's absolutely wonderful to have survivorship if you can. However, let's just
Yes,
say
she's from Ohio.
okay, so she's from Ohio. So you can do if you don't have survivorship on a deed in Ohio, you can do what's called a transfer on death designation affidavit. The affidavit says, for example, we use Georgia. Hi, I'm Georgia. I own this property that's located at this place. Upon my death, I want the property transferred to Billy and Jamie Paxton. She signs it, it gets notarized, it gets filed with the county. Then upon her death, we file what's called a notice of transfer with with her death certificate. The property is then it's filed with the Register of Deeds and it's automatically transferred to her. Same as a survivorship. So if you don't have a deed that says survivorship, you can do that too. It's a relatively simple process. Just takes looking it up at the Register of Deeds office, and then we create the paperwork and ever sign it. If you do get property, say that you're going to go buy a house, and you're a married couple, or you're maybe not married but you're a couple together. Always good to say joint tenants with right of survivorship. So what that means is if I pass away, let's say you and I have a deed. We own this property together. If I pass away and we're joint tenants, when I pass, everything goes to you. You don't need to do anything other than file a death certificate showing that I'm dead with the Register of Deeds. And you own the property in full. I don't have any claim to it. The difference between that and the joint tenancy is what's called a tenancy in common. So for example, if we bought property together but we didn't do the joint tenancy, if I die, you own 50%, my estate owns 50%. And then I get to either, as the estate, say, I'll sell you my interest, or if we can't agree on a price, I can file a partition claim with the court and the court will force us to sell it, and then we take the proceeds if there are any. So that's why it's better if you can to have that joint tenancy, because then it just automatically rolls to someone. So for example, you and Billy, you're either going to want to have that joint tenancy with right of survivorship, or in Michigan has something different. If you are a husband and wife buying property, you're a tenancy by the entirety. As a husband and wife in Michigan, the only way you can lose that joint tenancy is if you're divorced or you die. So you automatically should have that if it says husband and wife on your deed. The other thing in Michigan that you can do, and this is something I recommend to everyone that may not have that, or even if you have, say, for example, an older couple that has some property and they want their kids to get it and keep it out of probate, Michigan does what's called a ladybird deed. It's also known as a life estate deed in some other states. The ladybird deed says Jamie and Billy Paxton convey the property to Jamie and Billy Paxton for the rest of their life, to be used during their life as they want, and then upon the death of both of them, it goes to the legal term is remainderment, so it goes to Billy Jeffers upon their death. And so then it automatically conveys to me, never goes into probate, I show your death certificates, I now own the property. And that keeps everybody out of probate. And that's very important, because one thing I've noticed that really bugs the heck out of me, and I'm seeing this and I'm trying to figure out why this is, but a lot of attorneys will just tell somebody, oh, let's just do a will, this will take care of everything for you. Well, you and I have talked. That doesn't work. You've got to do some type of deed with the property, so either a life estate deed, ladybird deed in Michigan, or a transfer on death affidavit. Otherwise, even if you have a will, you're still going to have to go into probate if you don't have those things done. And I don't understand why
How
more
many
attorneys
of you don't have that on your deeds?
don't tell people that, because with that real property, you're going into probate. If you passed away today and that property isn't in anybody else's name but yours, even if you have a will, you're going to probate for that property. And that's costly, and it's not something that you want to deal with. So let's just get the deeds or the affidavits done, whichever state you're in.
So for you viewers tonight, make sure you're checking. When's the last time you had a will? Get a trust. Add that trust to it. Make sure your joint names are on those deeds. My gosh, just more information.
All that little
More
stuff
information
really
than I can
really-
imagine. So Daniel had another question. How much would you charge to do DNRs and med POAs? So his situation, just to give you a little bit, so
Sure.
he is a disabled veteran. He lives on oxygen. He was exposed to the burn pits.
Oh.
So he has to go through these transfusions. I think it's once a month. Daniel, tell me if I'm right or not. And so, he's already going through a lot.
Wow.
So,
Well,
yeah,
Daniel,
he was
thank you
exposed
for
to
your
the burn
service.
pits. Yeah.
so is Daniel married?
And some
He's
of that you
gonna
don't
be.
necessarily have to answer out loud. And I don't mean that. You can private messenger some of that stuff, so you don't have to.
Well, and you could just
I
do
mean,
an
you know.
average, like an average DNR.
I gotcha.
What
Well,
would that be, right?
Sure.
I would say, let's just say you do the full estate
Wagon, he
package.
says.
Full estate package, which would be, I'm going to assume that you're married. So off the top of my head,
He's not married.
okay. So if okay, I'll give two examples
Yeah,
then.
he's just getting married. He's the one that's getting married at the farm that was asking those
Oh,
questions.
that's right. So we need
Yeah.
we need to make sure him and his wife are taken care of, his future wife.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a bad idea for both of them to do it anyways,
Yeah.
just because they're going to get married.
Yeah.
I would say you're probably looking for everything $1,000 or less. And when I say that, and I'm not trying to sell anything,
No.
but I met with a guy a few weeks ago to do a trust and to do all this stuff, and it blew me away because he said he talked to 3 different attorneys who quoted him prices in the $2,000 or $3,000 range for all that stuff, and I said, I don't understand that. That's just too much.
Yeah.
So, I would say expect. Now that's not including a trust. If you have a trust, you probably add about $500 or $600 on, so you're going to be looking in the $1,500 range. But for everything with a couple, you're probably looking about $1,000. Single, you're probably looking about $700.
But the security of having, and for those of you who are watching, right? Yes, we both want to do everything. So, and then
Well, he
he
does
said
that
he gets
twice a
those.
month.
He gets those treatments twice a
Right.
month.
Right.
He says, "I just need to make sure if something happens to me, Danielle is cared for."
Absolutely.
I love you, Dan, and I love you, Danielle, so much. They are just like amazing people. So anybody who's listening tonight, right? We started this conversation with, yes, we can go to the VA, right? And we can have it done for free, right? Great. Absolutely great. Something's better than nothing, right?
For sure.
But what I really wanted to be able to have our viewers see is who you are, right? And you will sit and you will talk to them just like you've talked to us, right?
Absolutely.
And so you will help guide them through there and, ask them questions
Well,
to
it
help
isn't
stir
cookie
their
cutter,
brain. Right.
the cookie cutter mentality and stuff. That's,
No,
you get
and
away
it-
from that. Right?
Yeah, and it's so nice to know that you would ask the questions, right? Because I've realized that in some of the things that I'm doing, right? If I don't ask a question, I don't get an answer, right?
Right.
But I need an answer because something's not going to function right because I didn't ask that question,
Right.
but I didn't know the question,
Right.
And so, and then I don't get any more information than what.
And you know what's funny is that inevitably after I sit down and meet with somebody, so I don't rush.
You got a fan on here, Amanda Murphy.
Oh my goodness, yes. She's a she's a friend from Oklahoma.
Oklahoma!
She,
Thank you, Amanda.
I worked with her husband at Chesapeake, and her and her husband are 2 of my favorite people. So thanks, Amanda.
We can tell. She's
We love you too.
yeah.
Yes, as Billy
So-
Jeffers has a heart of gold and is one of the most intelligent, selfless, integrity-filled people I know. Anybody would be lucky to have his help.
I did not pay
Mission
her to
B.
write that. she's a sweetheart. I miss her. I miss her. I miss her husband too.
So I told you Dan's in a wheelchair, right? So Dan says, I trust the VA as far as I can walk.
Yeah, right.
Oh, Dan, of course.
Well, and I'll tell you the other thing too is what I was saying before that was people inevitably will sit down with me and they'll not think of something. So I always tell everybody, You got my card. You got my email. When you walk away, you're gonna think of something
Sure.
because
Oh, yeah.
I've got your
Just-
mind clicking now.
Right, absolutely.
Just email me.
Right.
Just call me. You know, let's talk, and I'll answer the 2 or 3 questions you think of because that's what we all do, and that's just what it's about. You know,
Right.
What can we do to help?
You're right. Once the wheels start turning, right?
Yeah. Because a lot of times people come in and say, "I need to do a will," or "I need to do a power of attorney," and I'll start asking them questions, and I've had people look at me and say, "I didn't think it was this detailed." Well, it has to be because it's your future.
Yeah, and with that, it's funny because a friend of mine had a house fire. This has been several years ago, and I was wondering how long it was going to take. You know, he wanted me to do the demo and clean the house up, but it took a while, right? And then because you don't realize. So when I was having that conversation with him on the phone, he goes, "Well, what are you doing?" He goes, "Well, are you watching your TV?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm looking at it." He goes, "Well, how many wires do you have behind there?" All the HDMIs. Meaning when you turn a claim for a fire, you want paid for that, right? Because it is crazy how much stuff we have, and sort of that comes back to a will, because you hire a firm of women that come out with legal pads and they go through your home, because all them cords, whether it's a $30 HDMI that hooks the VCR to the TV, DVD player, all that stuff got damaged in the fire now. Well, if you want any type of payment for that, or a claim, you have to have, proof of it. So, and it goes back to the will, because the same thing is the same stuff we own that we want to claim in that insurance claim is part of our stuff that has to go somewhere in a will.
Sure.
Whether it's all the TV components, the tools, the washer dryer, that's all of your stuff that you want to claim for, that paid for from the insurance company, who is going to screw you, that you need to get paid for. Your clothes, all that stuff, is that your sweaters, your silverware. It's just funny because some of that stuff in the will does get lumped into personal items, but there is a lot of stuff that we own.
That's a great example.
It is, because it is just absolutely mind-boggling. I've not heard them all, and I say that to a lot of different people because, their fire is non-discriminative, but when it does happen, you do want paid for it. Mm-hmm. And so it is, our stuff that just went up as a loss.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kinsey, for watching. Says, please remind people to get legal counsel from someone who handles things. I can't see that.
Once
the
the
deceased has passed away.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you so much.
And I'll tell you one thing, too, just to add on to what you said, is even if somebody has a will, I'm always happy to just sit down with them and make sure that it's still in line.
Right.
Somebody could come get a will 5 or 10 years from now. Our lives change.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That's again, we have more stuff,
We
more
do.
things to add to it,
Yeah.
or not,
For sure.
or right, or it is gone, so you don't necessarily still have that item. It needs to be omitted or taken out.
Right.
And it is absolutely true.
And I do wills with, say, for example, husbands and wives. I do separate wills for husbands and wives because you need to have a plan, because eventually one of you is going to pass.
Right.
And so that way the wife or the husband, whoever is still living, doesn't have to just rush out and get something done because they've got so many other things to deal
Right.
with.
And again, the very first time that I heard you talk and share in the BNI group, it made me instantly think of the veterans that are in this circle and in this organization, right? And I just know that so many of them, it's not even a thought that crosses their mind, right? And nobody is guaranteed tomorrow, right? And
Did I tell you my statistic that I heard? I read this in a magazine. It was an attorney's magazine, but 80% of Americans do not have wills. 80%. That's a lot.
yeah,
And I think there's 2 reasons. Either, number 1, they think they're never going to die, or they don't think about it. Or 2, they're afraid if they plan a will that they're acknowledging their mortality. Well, the thing with veterans, I think, and if I'm wrong, tell me, but by being a veteran and by putting yourself out there to serve and sacrifice on behalf of people like me, you've already acknowledged the potential for your mortality.
oh yeah. I mean,
So
2 years in, I had to complete a will for my first deployment, right?
Right. I was just
And
gonna say that. I
So it's like
remember that.
I've been doing them. But it was funny because my mom passed away a few years ago, right? My mom was adamant about not talking about it. Well, I don't have anything in it. I don't have anything, right? She just wouldn't even acknowledge it, right? Because she was sick, and it just meant she was going to die.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Ma, you're going to die anyways. We're all going to die, right? And with veterans, they already face that. They already know it, right? And
Well, I told you this, or we're getting close to time. I told you the story about my father, I think, didn't I? So
feel free.
My father passed away in November last year due to COVID. He had put together a will. He and my mother put together a will and estate plan, all this different stuff, and they thought they had everything all put together. This was before I became an attorney that they did this. They thought they had it all together. Turns out the attorney didn't do everything they were supposed to do. And so we've been in probate for my dad's estate now for the last 9 months. We're just about done. So why do I say that?
Because you're living it.
Because I'm living it.
Yeah.
And because
Is
if
that
you
Ohio?
don't,
That's in Ohio.
it's in Ohio.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the right person looking out, if you've just got, and I'm not saying all attorneys are like this, so please don't take that from this.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the right person looking at this stuff, it makes a big difference.
No, it's funny because a friend of my dad's, when he introduced to George, he shook his hand and he looked at his fingers when he come back from shaking it because he was an attorney. And the joke is because of how attorneys are, the stigma that and you're living it, so you get it. But it is funny how not funny, but how long you can be tied up in probate. The stories are real. They're not by design.
Right.
They are.
Yep.
Right.
Dan says, death is a certainty. Plan accordingly and don't leave a mess for the loved ones remaining, which is why I'll be calling Billy soon.
I appreciate that, Dan.
Yeah.
No, it's the truth.
Yeah.
So,
Till you lived it, because we don't think it's going to happen to us.
Yeah.
And it is not funny. I hate to keep saying it, but when your statistics are, because my dad didn't sign his until 8 o'clock in the morning. And he died that night at 7.
Oh, wow.
And he had a will, but he didn't sign it till that morning.
Right.
And he passed that night at 7. Yeah. It's.
and I already know, and I could tell you're going to be a repeat guest.
Thank you.
Our viewers were fully engaged, right? And I'm sure once this moves out, it'll be big.
And it's
right?
rewatched,
Yeah. So, we would definitely love to have you
I would
on
love
again.
to be back.
Is there any last piece of advice you want to give to anybody, reiterate, say to our viewers, anything?
Well, I'd like to say again, thank you to the veterans who are watching this for your service. I can't say that or emphasize that enough. You're the reason why I get to drive back and forth and come and go and be free. So thank you for that. Without veterans, we wouldn't have what we have.
Absolutely.
I think the other thing I'll say is don't be afraid to just sit down and talk to somebody about this stuff. Just because you talk to us at my firm or another attorney, if you know another attorney that you trust, just because you talk doesn't mean you have to do anything. But it's important to be prepared and to be ready, because you don't want to do this and leave your family without plans. Because
I
that's
think,
even worse.
And I know it seems like that's all we've talked about. The topic is the will in this whole segment, But as far as, like you said, criminal law, not that criminals, but just getting in trouble, DUIs, just different things that you need, marriage, all the different legal stuff that you need an attorney for.
Sure.
Is nice to know one. Because,
This is why I'm saying that I already know.
Well, it's funny, and I keep saying it's funny, but when I talk to my dad, don't call me when you go to jail. When I went to jail, I called him, and he gave me Wittenberg and Phillips. And only giving you one number, and that's all you're getting. So that's all the fuck I'm doing for you. And he did. It was Jerome Phillips, Jerry Phillips, in Wittenberg, which were in the same office, but it was the same, which was a good one, but still, it was funny how
Your dad
it's all
told
you give
me
me.
the same thing my dad said.
Yep. So don't fucking call me when you're in
Except
jail.
My dad said, make sure you sleep with your butt to the wall, 'cause you're going to stay there overnight.
Don't drop the soap. Yeah, one eye open or something. But it's funny though. It's the truth though.
It is.
It's like insurance. When you need one, you can't buy insurance once you need it.
Right.
That's why you have insurance.
Right.
And an attorney, it's nice to have one that you feel comfortable with and
Right.
trust,
Yeah.
and that has
Yeah.
And I'll just throw this into, I tell people this all the time. If you call Godfrey, Wetzel, and Horkey, where I'm at, you don't just get me, you get the entire firm.
Sure.
So I'll tell you that we've got the 3 partners all have based on my math, about 105 years of experience combined. So you don't just get me, you get them too. And I wouldn't vouch for them if I didn't think that they were quality people. So I'll add that.
And that's sort of where this whole thing's at.
Yeah.
Jamie
Yeah.
wouldn't have you on, and that was part of it because,
Yep.
you know, as Amanda said from your Okie from Muskogee there said, you got a heart of gold, so, you know. Is she still in Oklahoma?
She is.
So
She lives
we're
east
talking,
of,
she's
east
in
of
Oklahoma watching it well, with Facebook, and you share it. So, right.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, she missed your face. Now you get to see.
She did.
You better look into the camera and tell her hi or goodbye when we're leaving. Yeah.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Billy. It was
Thanks
a
for
pleasure
having me.
having you
Sure.
on here. Thank you for
Well,
all of the
thank you.
information
Thank you.
that
Yeah.
you gave our viewers. And again, I'm going to see you tomorrow. Are you going to be there
I'll
tomorrow?
be there in the morning
We have our BNI in the morning, so we'll
Oh,
see each
right,
other at
right,
7:30
right.
coffee.
with coffee.
Pineapples and partying or something.
Yeah, Angela.
Yeah.
Yep.
Snakes.
And the Cobras.
Yeah,
Yep.
right.
I'll be there.
Cobras, get your hands up.
Yeah.
Giving the Cobras
That's
a
fun.
shout out.
All right.
Okay, you guys, enough for tonight. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. And again, thank you, Mary Beth, for your sponsorship. We greatly appreciate it. And God bless. And we will see you guys next week. Bye.